Hello, in this video I would like to speak with you about typhoons, which is one of the types of natural hazards that we are discussing and working on in our course. The latest one and the most devastating ever has been Typhoon Haiyan, which hit the Philippines on the 9th of November in 2013, just a year and a half ago. That typhoon unfortunately killed more than 6,000 people, destroyed millions of homes and more than 3,000 classrooms and schools. So the damage of it were just immense, and the country is still recuperating from that disaster. The rebuilding process has been gradual. The first thing that happens on site is international and local organizations bring tents. So they bring tarp tents that are installed in a matter of days. And those are supposed to be used a few months before people are moved into transitional shelters. What happens is that sometimes there are people that live in those tents which were meant to be used for a few months. They end up living in them for years. Like, for example, in refugee camps, there are people who have lived in tents for more than 10 years. At the moment, there are over 60 million displaced people around the world, displaced either internally or externally, displaced because of natural disasters that have happened in their country, or displaced because of wars that their country is affected by. Here in the Philippines, the typhoon basically destroyed the entire part of the country. You can see the central part of the country. It went diagonally from the east to the west of the country. And we did a course a few years ago on designing resilient schools that was particularly focused on the Philippines. And some amazing projects came out of it. So what is happening here is we are focusing this time on permanent housing. After people lived in tents, they were moved to transitional shelters, and then in a couple of years after the disaster, they're supposed to rebuild their homes or build new homes in new areas and move to those new areas. So we are designing the permanent homes. We are designing homes that will withstand the next natural disaster that comes, the next storm that comes and hit Philippines or any other country similar to the Philippines that is affected by this kind of typhoons. We have a number of them happening in Mexico, in the Caribbean, in the south of the United States, and Indonesia, Malaysia, and so on. So there's like a whole, there are entire regions that are affected by typhoons. We would like to design homes that are windproof. So remember, in the Philippines, the wind reached more than 300 kilometers per hour, and that's like the speed of an airplane which is taking off. So 300 kilometers an hour, any house that is not built with sturdy permanent materials would be flown away. So we look at materials that are heavy enough or that have joints that are strong enough that can withstand the pressure of the wind that comes from the side. At the same time, in this area we have heavy rains. Remember, the Philippines has the rain season where it just pours all the time, and it's humid, and when the rain combines with typhoon or with the strong winds, then that's where the floods come. So many times everything happens at the same time. When there is also a typhoon, the level of the ocean rises, so all those villages and cities that are near the water are essentially completely flooded. So we want to build something that can withstand all these disasters. Here we have an example of one of the projects from the Resilient Architecture Research course, where a team worked on traditional houses. So they looked at, for example, what the shape of the roof can be, so it can withstand the winds, what the materials in the membrane can be, so they can be heavy enough to protect from the heavy and strong winds. We also had a school project in our course on resilient schools that was entirely made out of bamboo, and that had this aerodynamic shape which allowed the wind to go above it without affecting necessarily the interior of the building. So these are just some examples of typhoon resilient homes, and again, these kind of disasters are happening all the time. So in order to prevent them, well, we can't really prevent them, but in order to mitigate their effect, we would like to do some research and to understand what are the buildings or the typologies that are resilient and that can be utilized or improved in the rebuilding process in which the country is currently going through. So I invite you to look at these examples and also to others that you can find online and find out more about typhoon resilient housing.